Mal, I hope you're getting ready out there. Here. In this game of life, you can't rest on your laurels. You're measured by your works and whether you left morsels. I write to crack the rhyme barrier and bless lost souls. Repping for my ancestors, see you at the crossroads. Rules and morals, they taught those for the long road. Sacred like the heart to be strong within my torso. Tune in the froze, dreadlocks and them cornrows. Jewels I picked up, I'm a clutch. I drop all those. Etched on a scroll and sent out in Morse code. Listen closely, then you'll see just how the song goes. Visceral poems, I hit your frame plus your dome. When I feel forlorn, it's cause I wanna go home. I've been on a journey and it seems like for so long. When I greet my lost tribesmen, I say shalom. Focus till I broke dawn, trying to get my flow on. Ingest the right nutrients, I hope my life is prolonged. Make the right investments and watch my dough grow on. My daughter and my wife are the only ones I dote on. Dedicate my life to the day it's time to float on. Since I was a shorty, I can hear them say go on. Some call me legacy, most know I'm pure though. Magnificent velocity when I walk slow. Talk like my New York bros, cause we all pro. Rappers don't want no smoke, yeah I thought so. These are life lessons, wise up, pay attention. In the wilderness we use mics as a weapon. Lyrics we perfect can break the internet. The way we intersect and provide divine blessings.
America's never been great, news always been fake. Of course our lives matter, that's not even up for debate. Those who think otherwise are filled with nothing but hate. That's never been in my blood, that's why I can't relate. Tell you what I can do, break down, dismantle, totally deconstruct any mic that I handle. End times are near, here's the preamble. A sample of what happens whenever God gets angered. World order in shambles, build powers get trampled. Devils having fits and start throwing temper tantrums. Me get with my team and start dropping bangers. Heavyweight, tight to break molecules to atoms. Afro kings learned the Queen's English, it was nothing. Mastered it, added slang to it, put our swag
Peace,
in
what's
it.
up, y'all?
Every word we say you hang on it, like kids on kitchen cabinets. Book of life protagonist, I'm savage with my pen game. Flexing mad jewels like it's endgame. Remember reading about the burning bush? I'm the same flame. Most of y'all ain't built for complex math, I'm the mainframe. Chill y'all, maintain, remain at it. Spit that pandemic flow, none of y'all resistant. Immune system deficient, inadequate cognition. I'm heaven sent like manna, gift from the omniscient. Omnipresent receiving, I don't know how many blessings. Introspection inside, you'll find answers to questions. Complexions a reflection, we look just like perfection. Divine intervention whenever we're in a session. Life lessons.
These are life lessons. Wise up, pay attention. In the wilderness,
Okay,
we use mics as
let's
a
start
weapon.
this conversation.
Lyrics we perfect could break the internet.
Okay, I got my boys. Those are my boys, Life Force. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, welcome. It is Tuesday. What time is this? About 8:37 on my watch. You know, I don't have the Apple thing going on. 8:36 it says on my iPhone. Anyway, welcome everybody. Good evening, good night. And I'm here because, let me bring my friend in right now. My friend Manny Faces. Where's my man at? Okay, what's up, brother? How you feeling? Can you hear me, Manny?
All right. Check 1 2. I hear you loud and clear, sir.
Okay.
There's one for you. I got one too.
There you go, one for you. So, let's talk to the people about, I put a post up actually, and my post reads, is hip hop a culture? And I saw you and one of my buddies, my boy Sean Mason, going back and forth. Sean, shout out to Sean, Long Island, Westbury, representer, all that. Strong Island in the house. And you know, Manny, well, let me say this. Let me put a disclaimer out, actually. So a lot of people are going to see Manny on here, and if they're in the comments, like I saw Jafar earlier, they may refer to Manny as Mike. You may see people in the comments like writing things, may say D or Dwayne for me because we went to school together.
That's right.
Like
that's right.
When
People say we go way back, like this is way back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally went to school, as in like still live with our parents, not college school,
right.
You know, grade school, middle school, high school. So I've known this young man for quite some time. And actually, before we get into the show, like anyone that's watching this that comes from my hometown will know that his credibility when it comes to hip hop is unmatchable. You know, just as I could be in here sitting and talking about it, Manny can do as well. In the 80s, I'll just give you an update, and he probably could jump in as well. when it was not popular. I'm talking about early 80s, not 89, 87, 88, etc. 84, 85, when it wasn't popular in the hoods around the way for like white dudes to hang out with a bunch of black guys. I'm just getting straight to it. You know what I'm saying,
100%,
Manny?
no,
Let's get
100%.
straight into it, bro.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
see, in
No
my
lies
community,
told.
I grew up. We grew up in Westbury, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't know how segregated Long Island was until I started dating someone from the Bronx, right? And she actually said to me, she was like, "Whoa, you know, you guys out here, you guys have your sections." And I didn't realize that until she actually pointed that out to me. Even though I was born in the Bronx, we moved out to Westbury. So you, with an Italian last name, so Westbury was, you know, we have what's called Newcastle, which people in Newcastle say, "Hey, we are the hood. We hold Westbury down."
Right.
Then you have the section of Post Avenue, which is basically Italian based. You know, John Gotti. I mean, there's a lot of like just people that roll through. If you come from, you know, Nassau and Westbury specifically, I think Ventura Gotti still lives out in Old Westbury.
Right,
You know,
right.
So we had our line. You know, we had our line, and you know, Mike, Manny, you know, you came right into, you know, the heart of where the hip hop was living, and you did with the last name, with an Italian last name. You had the choice, brother, to be hanging out on Post Avenue, you know, at Giuseppe's
right.
and Alfredo's, etc. You know, but you used to come around. Well, what's called the middle school now. Back then, it was the junior high school with your dog dressed up in, and we're gonna get into it, hip hop attire.
Right.
There was what's called hip hop attire, and that's why we actually gonna get into this conversation. And you know, like, what brought you into? But we were like 13 years old, man. You're younger than me. If I was like 14, 15, you know, you must have been like 11.
Yeah, I'm like a year and a half behind you, I think. You know, we won't get into the details. It's amazing. First of all, it's amazing you bring that up, and it's great to be with you. And I appreciate this opportunity. Anytime anybody thinks I'm worthy to be on their screen with them, that's a honor and a privilege. But to have someone like yourself, bro, that's done so much, and we go so far back. It's wild you bring that up. I remember my dog. That's my dog, B Dog, man. You got me feeling that. That's my dog, man. I love my dog. I don't know, man. Like, you know, Westbury was an interesting place. I did grow up kind of like where I was placed was kind of right in the middle. It was a school district that was, I guess we'd say predominantly black, but you had that Italian kind of, you know, faction in there. And it was a very segregated thing. My dad had a lot to do with it. Matter of fact, I grew up right by the middle school, which was kind of in between, say, Newcastle and the Post Avenue. It was kind of in this, like, you know, little area that was kind of between these two areas. And that was interesting metaphorically. My dad was a sociologist. I don't know if you remember all this or whatever, but he was a professor at Old Westbury.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was a professor of sociology, ended up being a distinguished professor, taught for over 40 years at Old Westbury. And one of the things that he studied was like sociology of minorities, as it was called at the time. Urban studies, you know. So he was into like that, the study of that. Plus, he's a jazz and blues connoisseur. My dad grew up in Newark, New Jersey, went to school with Joe Clark. You know what I mean? So
there was urban studies, Manny, in colleges in the early 80s.
Yeah, he was one of the, I mean, I don't want to say like pioneers or early people. I don't know how extensive it was at the time, but and right there in Old Westbury. Now, if you know New York, you know there's the State University of New York. It's a state school system, and you know, he was shortlisted at one point. He taught at Ohio State for a little bit. Then he was shortlisted, apparently, from what I remember, at Harvard. He could have taught at Ivy League, and he wanted to kind of just settle down in a place that was closer to the city in New York. He loved New York. He loved New Jersey, and he wanted to be in this area where it was like, I can give you a world-class education, even though we're at a quote-unquote state college, right? So Old Westbury was his stomping grounds. We then moved to Westbury when I was about 4 years old. And so coming from where I'm coming from, like my dad is what we would now call, he was pretty woke as an Italian dude that grew up in Newark, New Jersey, went to school with Joe Clark from, Lean On Me, that Joe Clark.
Word.
You know what I mean? Came up in this kind of segregated but interesting area, if you know Newark, New Jersey in the 50s and 60s and 70s, 50s and 60s, really interesting place, a lot of racial stuff going on. But he was very aware and then grew up to study it. So when I tell people, I knew what gentrification meant when I was 7. You know what I mean? So I came up with this understanding of not everything. I don't know everything. I'm not in your shoes. I can't be in. But when you put me in a neighborhood, in a school with my, brethren, black brothers and sisters, you know what I mean? Like on Long Island, which is where I was in the middle of, I felt comfortable. And when you're young, you don't have all the biases that obviously come with growing up.
You really don't.
And my people became my people. We all kind of did the same things. I used to be on, and when you talk about hip hop, Friday and Saturday nights was the only time you could get hip hop on the radio. We're in Long Island, so we get Kiss FM and we get WBLS.
BAU too. Dre.
That's right, 100%. Dr. Dre from Westbury. His mother taught at the school.
Correct.
And so we have Adelphi, we have Hofstra, we have these influences right around our way. And so we're immersed in it as everybody else, more so than anywhere else in the country. We're in the sixth borough, you would say. So we got Public Enemy right down the block coming up. We got, all the Long Island. I talk about this all the time, how Long Island was so influential in the early days of hip hop. All the great things. Herbie Lovebug lived right there in Westbury, right? Had a spot.
Boy, and that's another conversation. And we can go on for stories for days. Let me ask you a question.
So because I was right in the middle of it.
Because, I was a DJ back then. You were a rapper. You were never called a white rapper to us. Like, you were a rapper. You were MC. Because back in those days, we used those terms, MCs.
Right. Sure.
When was this term white rapper? When was the first time you heard that term?
Oh man, that's interesting. You're right. And you say that like I was doing it before it was cool, and like I think about that. So you're right. Like it was earlier than the time when I guess white folks who were attached to hip hop in some way wanted to be a part of it. It's different when you were just a part of it. I can't say it other than that. So I didn't consider myself much different. I knew that we're not stupid. Like we know it's a black art form. We know it's a black culture. We know that I'm participating in it. But something in the early days let it be known, and this is what we talked about later about the culture, about hip hop being kind of its own thing, that you could be part of this if you're authentic and true to what you do. And so just like anybody else who came up at the time as a DJ yourself, you studied other DJs. You studied people who came up before you. I studied rappers. I remember rewinding and playing back Big Daddy Kane, Let It Roll, Get Bold. I just can't hold back the flow because I'm a man with soul. Like, what did he just say? Like, hold on, I got to figure out that cadence. I got to be able to say it. Then I want to write like that. So I was doing all the things, all the other young 13, 14, 15-year-old kid with no real concept at the time. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think about sort of that racial aspect of it. I just felt like this was the thing we were doing. All of us were doing together.
So you didn't see no limitations with yourself and the Chauncey's, the Malcolms, the Flips, and all the MCs around our way. You was I'm with those Spankies.
Them. We worked together. I rocked with my man Antoine Stanley. We used to do stuff together. We used to do, and we were just being working on playing around with music. I started DJing. I had a beat machine. Like we were just doing what we like. This was the influence on us. And so it's literally no different than you or anybody else who came up and listen names that you mentioned, folks that, went on to do amazing things, still do things to this day. So it was no different. I didn't know. No, this was just what we did. Later on, I understood the ramifications of that. And then, when the industry started shifting and you started seeing kind of more white folk get into the mix, and then you have this idea of authenticity versus, what now they say industry plants and things like that. Right. Then it became more of a thing that I was like much more conscious of.
Right.
But at the time, we were just doing what we do.
I mean, I'm telling everybody, I come from, pretty much, like he said, a predominantly black area at the time, and all of us were into hip hop. Manny, the white rapper term, it definitely, that is a later term. I could definitely bear witness that you were there 82, 83, 84, 85, right there in the mix with, all of the other guys that were doing it and that were known for doing it, which actually brings us, and I said something about your dog. Now, that's what actually brings us to this, because now we have a conversation amongst, I guess the hip hop world. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago? KRS One, he said something about the Grammy kickoff that the hip hoppers were doing, and a lot of my friends participated in that. In fact, I was with speech from Arrested Development, practicing rehearsal with him, because we had did something on Fox 5 on Porce's show in Atlanta down here.
Yep.
And he was telling me about that show.
Right.
He said, yo, D, when this comes on, yo, you got to watch it. Yo, it's going to be dope. It's going to be fire, blah, blah, blah. So, I was prepared to watch it. I watched it that night. I thought it was dope. I thought it was really, really, really hot. So, next thing you know, we see KRS One post why I didn't participate in it.
Right.
I saw you write a comment on it. I didn't understand your comment on it, and of course,
Right.
we would want you to break it down tonight. And being that I have friends that participated in that, I was on the fence about what he said. A.
Yeah.
B. I got a phone call also from a friend of mine, another DJ friend of mine in the Get Fresh crew, and he said, "Yo, D, do you think KRS One is A, dissing all the rappers that were up there, and B, do you think he's dissing Dougie Fresh?" So, and I never even considered that. I never even thought about it. I was like, well, maybe, he may be dissing the rappers up there because Chris is Chris.
Right.
But as far as the Dougie Fresh thing, I didn't see it. And I was like, yeah, why you ask that? He said, well, because KRS said there are four elements of hip hop. And he said it was MCing, breakdancing, DJing, and graffiti.
Right.
And my buddy said he didn't mention the beatbox, which is the fifth element of hip hop. And that started a conversation with me and a few other of my buddies that are inside the business. Actually,
Yeah.
I can't even call them my buddies, my mentors. You know what I'm
Fair
saying? That are in the business, my mentors. This is definitely one call that, damn, man, I really hurts, man. Like Biz isn't here. This is a call, man. I would give my brother Biz, man. Damn.
Good point. Good
Yeah,
point.
man.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah. Rest in peace. I
we
got
bring
my
it
biz,
back
I got
in,
my biz
man.
dog right there.
Yeah, man. Biz.
Yeah.
So that led us, a lot of us, into this conversation of what are the five elements of hip hop. If not, it's five elements. If it's four elements of hip hop, because you and I had a conversation about what the elements are, and you had a perspective on it. Is the beatbox an element of hip hop? What culture is in hip hop, etc.
Yeah.
Your take.
So first of all, let it be known, I just want to preface this, folks who might not know me and be like, who's this guy? Like, okay, so y'all grew up together. That don't make him no expert, And I don't speak I'm not the spokesperson for hip hop or whatever, but what I am is a longtime journalist that's covered hip hop, music, and culture. Specifically focused on the cultural aspects, not just the musical genre or those associated with it, but everything that's associated with it. So, and not only do I do that, but I talk to a number of people. As you know, I interview people on my shows and my platforms for years. So when I talk, it's a lot of it is me. It's all me. I'm just telling you how I think and how I feel. So I'm just one guy though. But what I do is I take input and I take sort of an amalgamation of input from a lot of people who are really closely connected with hip hop, music, and culture, as you do. My focus is always on sort of let's try to lean a little bit away from the entertainment aspect and a lot of times the musical genre to look at the larger concept. So when KRS talks about the elements and, that stuff I study and look at, in real great detail. What KRS said was about the Grammys was that he was disappointed, I guess, in the way that a lot of us are, that over the years, the Grammys has been disingenuous to hip hop, the genre, first of all, because they've never really treated the genre with the respect that we think it deserves, right? But also never really incorporated the other elements. And in that statement, he says, there are four elements upon which it's all agreed. We all agree on these four: MCing, DJing, breaking, and graffiti art. That's what he said. And I think that's true. I think that everyone kind of agrees on those four. There's some discussion depends on who you talking to, whether that fifth element is knowledge of self. That's often considered
I've heard him say that.
Yeah, I've heard him say that too. I've heard a lot of people say that. And KRS,
he doesn't include the
is both
beatbox.
simultaneously profound, problematic, outdated, and forward thinking. All at the same time, all the time. So let's just set that for the record. There are people that have problems with KRS for a number of reasons, but that's not to discount some of his insight into the culture that he obviously has studied himself and obviously been a big part of. There are then who say, and we talked about this, the temple of hip hop, this extension of hip hop culture that I think lists 9 elements where they extended the basic 4, added knowledge of self, added, I think beatboxing is in there, added things like entrepreneurship or entrepreneurialism, something that.
And who said that they were that? Besides him.
That's what I'm saying. So, they did, like the temple of hip hop extended to 9. Some people would say that beatboxing is, some people would say that it isn't a verified element. This is part of the problem with these discussions and how people react when they hear them, especially online. You hear people act emotionally or via their perspective, and they'll have obviously a beatboxer or someone, a Dougie Fresh, or someone's going to say beatboxing was absolutely, when we didn't have turntables, we had a mic. And when we didn't have beat machines, we had a beatboxer. And so it is
inside the lunchroom after school.
100%. I mean, you remember this? I remember. They did Lottie Dottie at a talent show at Westbury High School. It was
me and Chauncey.
Okay, I remember this to this day.
That was me and Chauncey. Wow.
How many years later? And I was like, yo, killed it.
Me and Chauncey was slick Rick.
That's what I'm saying. Like, to this day.
Oh,
so I get it. So now hip hop is really, to me, as an independent scholar of this now, as a journalist, hip hop is really, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's contradictory in so many ways, because we want to say these are the elements, but we also want to look at hip hop as being uncontained and universal. And so sometimes we get in trouble when we try to put in a box something that's never been in a box.
I have a question for, I'm sure you have.
Tell me?
Of course, I'm sure you have ways of looking at the chat and whatnot. Is the beatbox the 5th element of hip hop? That's the question.
Yeah.
Is it the 5th element? Because I've never heard anyone else outside the temple of hip hop saying knowledge is the 5th element of hip hop.
I think, and I listen, I talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of influences. There's Zulu Nation, there's Temple of Hip Hop, there's, folks that just are participants in the culture and have their own kind of interpretation of it. I've heard knowledge of self, knowledge being represented as the 5th element of hip hop more, me personally, but I do study this, I do pay attention, than I've heard beatboxing itself. But that
really, Manny?
That doesn't mean that it's not as significant. It just means that, to the victors go the spoils, to the loud mouths go the spoils. And sometimes that gets acknowledged more than others. I think that what Karis actually said is that there are 4 that we can kind of all agree on. And I think that's still true. What's the official 5th is like saying,
why can't we agree?
5?
You're telling me that you see more people that subscribe to that say knowledge is the 5th element of hip hop than the beatbox is?
Yes. In my travels. And I'm not mad at that. It's like saying top 5 dead or alive. Some things are just subjective at that point. Is beatboxing more important than the idea of knowledge of self, which I think is a catch-all? I think the knowledge element is to say, we have this culture that has been compiled and remixed and coalesced and brought together from influences from, as we talked about offline, the entire African diaspora, right, through centuries, and kind of coalesced into this flashpoint in New York City. But understanding all of that is where it all comes from. Knowing that we're connected in a hip hop cipher back to griots in the beginning of civilization, knowing that the drum sounds are connected to the drum circles back in the beginning of civilization. That's a connection. That's a DNA that fuels hip hop culture to a lot of people. That's more important. And that's more fundamental, let's just say, than beatboxing or fashion or linguistics or or entrepreneurialism or some of the other elements that have been kind of tacked on at the end.
Knowledge instead of beatbox being the fifth element of hip hop. In your studies and travels, and of course, I know they're global,
And I think that's important.
Wow.
Because beatboxing. Okay, you can say that. You could also say production. Isn't production different than DJing? Right? DJing is DJing. Production is something else. So if you're looking at it artistically, we could add a couple more elements.
Yeah, but I'm saying the fifth one. See, listen, being 6, 7, and 8 is, not being number 5, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Listen, fundamental. And again, some of the pioneer, depends on which pioneer you want to hear. In the beginning, in the genesis, sure, beatboxing was early, but we know that the DJ is the cornerstone of hip hop.
None of those things are questioned.
Right? We know that the rappers started by doing their party chants over the DJ's music, particularly over the breaks.
Keep going.
And those same breaks was when the dancers were doing their thing. At the same time, outside of the venue, the graffiti writers were writing on the walls. And that all kind of coalesced into what developed into hip hop culture, despite everyone.
So where does knowledge come from in this?
Well, so knowledge is kind of that encapsulates all of that. So what I'm saying is, if you want to look at the artistic fundamental elements, those 4 are pretty set. Beatboxing developed, I would say, and I'd like to talk to my man Chesney Snow, who's worked with the American Beatbox Championships. I'd love to talk to my man. Of course, he's no longer with us, the late, great Terry Lewis, a.k.a. Kid Lucky. These were beatbox, not only pioneers, but advocates throughout the years that could give a better interpretation and might even argue with me and say that it's just as valid as anything else. And I agree that it's
Why you mention those guys instead of Dougie Fresh?
No, I'm saying, but Buffy, of course, there's pioneers who have done it and advocated for it throughout the years.
The reason why I'm saying that, well,
yeah.
The reason why I asked why you mentioned those guys instead of Dougie Fresh, and you called them pioneers.
Advocates, I think. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I don't know.
You said both. You said pioneers twice and advocates.
They may not be the pioneers, but they're certainly advocates that continued the culture. Like the American Beatbox Championships grew out of the love of the culture. And Dougie Fresh performed at the American Beatbox.
I know the dude you're talking about because we had him on my radio station.
I covered it as the only hip hop journalist in the building, mind you. So I was there. You know what I'm saying?
What when
we won't like when the American Beatbox Championships that were happening in New York City.
Yeah, he was on my radio station. I interviewed him. And I did like a little contest with him, and we did like a beatbox off. Yeah, I have his numbers and stuff. I know that cat.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm not saying that they were the only ones. What I'm saying is that there were advocates throughout the years that kept that part of the culture alive.
But I don't think, as you said, I would ask them. They can't verify if beatboxing should be the fifth element of hip hop. They cannot verify that.
I don't think
they're too young to.
Something that's like,
They're too young to verify that.
Fair enough. I don't think that anyone can verify. You're saying verify it if it's fact. I think that at a certain point it becomes subjective.
Okay, certified.
That's what I'm saying, and I'm allowing that. I'm allowing that to be subjective. It's just like if you give me my top 5, you ask me about my top 5. It may change.
Well, no.
I'm feeling.
Okay, well, no, because I do want to put a puncture on this. Certify whatever word you want to choose to make it what it is.
Yep.
I'm saying them who are younger than me and you are not old enough to be able to. I'm gonna call them and ask them if it's that. You would have to call, as you said, a Buffy, a Biz Markie, a Dougie Fresh.
No, I'm saying they may have studied it more than me personally.
Gotcha,
and they may have talked to Dougie Fresh. They know Dougie Fresh. They know the originators, and I'm saying that.
So
but hold on, not to cut you off. I'm just saying that this is where we get, I think personally, this is me, that we get into this thing where the fifth element could be a bunch of things that are all tied for fifth. You see what I'm saying? We can all agree on the 4. We can have a lot of arguments about the 5th.
Well,
And they may be all equally important. And so
we all agree on the 4.
that's what I'm saying. So after
That's
that,
why
it gets subjective.
Okay. Okay. So when you say respectfully, hey, I want to call those dudes, I would believe that my relationship with Dougie and with Biz is tighter than those dudes. So you don't have to call those dudes.
Of course.
You could talk to me.
But no, yes and no.
I'll continue with that.
All
What
I'm saying is that people are going to be biased, of course, by their own contributions and,
No,
and
'cause
where
you
they
said-
feel their place in history. And I try to look at it more objectively and say they may have been the first to do a thing.
Well, the reason you said you would call those dudes is to get the history from the Dougies and stuff like that. That's you said a second ago, and I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
well, you're talking to someone right now.
Oh, you could do it
that
too.
knows
Yep.
that guy more than those dudes. That knows more about the history of that.
Right.
More than those dudes.
Right.
Like the history of the like that. More than those dudes. So
I think they're pretty qualified to not only have talked to the Doug, and I would expect that they would have that same level of reverence to say, I talked to Dougie, but I also talked to. See, here's the thing, D.
Can I move on with that? What I'm saying?
Yes,
Because
please.
I'm trying to get to a point with this, bro.
I feel you. Go.
And the reason why I'm going with that is, look, I'm not trying to put out my penis and be like, yo, it's bigger than anyone else or whatever. That's not my point. Because if you think I'm trying to diss your people, that's not the point I'm trying to say. However, what I am saying is, I've known this guy for like 30 years. You've got the source right here. Like, right here. He is the creator of that.
Yep.
He's not a pioneer. He's not he is the creator. I'm a direct descendant, a direct Dougie Fresh when it comes to hip hop. Spit me out the way I talk. There's nothing that I don't do on those turntables on a microphone. There's just nothing he hasn't taught me. Like, so I could tell you literally the very first time, and I'm gonna get into it. That's why I was like, well, you don't got to do that. You're talking to someone right now that could give you that. You got to call them dudes. Like, I'm gonna do that right for you now.
Right.
Not for you, for everybody. For people that don't know how the beatbox was created and how it originated. And I hope I can get Doug on the phone. Like, yeah, like them dudes, bro. Like, you're talking to someone that. So, from the way I know the beatbox, now we all know, who the Force MDs are. Now a lot of people don't know that the Force MDs from Love Is a House, etc. in the 70s, they were a group called the Force MCs, and those guys used to rap. Other crew members of mine that I call mentors of mine. So I'm being really honest. When I'm speaking on these things, of course, it can be verified by all these guys are on social media. Please reach out to them. Khalil Lundy is on social media. Stevie D. These are all the Force MDs members that are on social media. You can reach out to Dougie Fresh because everything I'm about to tell you is pretty much like it goes so far back, which is the reason why I don't see how knowledge instead of the beatbox or anything else. Like, so anyway. So the Force the Force MCs used to rap, and Dougie Fresh used to hang out with those guys. These are all guys up top in the Bronx area. Doug used to hang out with them dudes, and Doug actually he came up with a way to keep beat for them, to keep time for them. And back in those days, the Force MD's dad, again, the Force MC. So I'm talking about late 70s, bro. Early 80s. They used to manage. He used to manage the Force MCs, and of course, Doug would go around the way. He would do these things, the beatbox. When we saw Dougie Fresh in Beat Street under the Treacherous 3 and Kumo D's legs, he was already Dougie Fresh.
Right.
In order to be in Beat Street, to be placed in with the Treacherous 3 in '83, to be placed with them in that kind of movie, you were already who you were. You know what I'm saying? So that means, well, he's established the beatbox way before '83. We have to establish that because he was in that movie and he was already who he was. So the stuff that I'm giving us, I'm sharing right now, are things that has been shared to me directly from them. He used to go up in when Treacherous 3 were Treacherous 3, way before Doug was doing records, before Just Having Fun came out, before the Human Beatbox, his first 2 records came out. He was doing beatbox for the Treacherous 3. Right. When the Treacherous 3 were the Treacherous 3.
I get it.
So, all of these other elements that we said, this came, man, this stuff, bro, this stuff is so far late. I tell Doug all the time, man, Manny, there should be really a documentary on Doug, A, and on the beatbox, B, as well. Yeah. Because
there's been,
maybe
like you're
not saying,
to the extent that it needs to be.
I just don't think people know. The story that I just shared. So this goes back to the Force MCs. This doesn't start out there. It starts out thin. Right.
No, listen. In no way am I diminishing the importance of beatboxing or its place in history or its timing. Although, like I said, the Treacherous 3 were originally, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not a historian, but the Treacherous 3 were originally rocking over records before the beatboxers kind of found their way into the mix. But
everyone was rocking over records. We were rocking over breakbeats. Everybody was.
Exactly what I'm saying. But hold on. So again, I'm just saying, I'm not telling you, I'm not arguing with you that beatboxing shouldn't be the 5th. I think in the 9 elements, as per KRS and the Temple of Hip Hop, I think it's 5th. I think it does go 5. And I think like knowledge or street knowledge comes later down the list in terms of ranking, right? We're talking about hierarchy. Fine.
But that's why I said, beatbox I would put in 6.
I'm not the only one out there in the world that would place knowledge of self in that 5th spot before beatboxing. That they would say beatboxing was a later addition or maybe not as influential to the fundamental foundation. I'm just saying that I'm not making it up. You can ask a lot of people, you'll get a lot of people to agree. Now, the argument that it should be recognized as just as important a foundational element, that's a good argument. That could be argued, but it can be argued. That's all I'm saying.
The beatbox is a foundational element to hip hop because when we're out in the park, when we're in a lunchroom, and you're banging on a table, and you're in a cipher outside, when there is no DJ, there is no NPC, you have a human being. That's why that person is called the human beatbox.
100%. I get
the beatbox is a part of the development of hip hop. Knowledge is not a part of the development of it.
What I like about, and this is my, not a counter argument, because I don't want to say it shouldn't be in the 5th. I say, again, things can be tied for 5th. What I like about the idea of knowledge or of some greater umbrella is that gets into your question on Facebook, my friend, is hip hop a culture? The 4 elements, and if you include beatboxing as 5, fine. We're just talking art. We're just talking artistic expression. And somewhere, hip-hop became more than that. And so what I like about the idea that a 5th element is knowledge or whatever you want to call it, this added thing that said, okay, we have all these artistic elements before us. It's how it started, no question. It grew out of the arts, of course, but it developed into something greater that encompasses way more than the arts, to the point where now the artistic elements of hip hop are now just elements of a greater hip hop culture.
Right.
And I like that that's reflected someplace when we talk about what are the elements of hip hop. So should beatboxing be there? Yes. But also something in there has to be denoted or said or specified or brought up to say, hey, this isn't just a genre. This isn't just
That's
art.
Another conversation.
This is something more.
Right. Just sticking to the 5 elements of hip hop.
Then I would say the 5 artistic elements. See, words are important. So what are the 5 artistic elements of hip hop? Sure. Absolutely. I don't think there's something more worthy of being in that 5th spot than beatboxing. 100%.
Manny, no one says the 5 artistic elements of hip hop.
That's
People
a problem.
say the 5 elements of hip hop.
Exactly.
So we're going with right now the conversation piece, the narrative that is being discussed right now.
I
So
get
with
it.
the
I think it's limiting.
let me finish where I'm going, my brother.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Delays. There's a delay. It's a delay. Oh, go ahead.
So with the 5 elements, I don't see how, being that I'm talking late 70s, and with the creation and the aid of the MC, which is a part of hip hop, the beatbox. They have the beatboxes in records when you still have a DJ and you still have a drum machine. It's still, what I'm saying? Like, that's how important the beatbox is. Even in records, when you have a drum machine, when you have a DJ,
Right.
we still got a beatbox. So,
Get it. I kind of wanted to look it up real quick in the background just to say, this is not me saying this. So Bambaataa, who of course is in later days problematic as well, that's where that comes from. Okay. This was an idea crafted that was added to the mix by Bambaataa, who had a voice into the idea of what hip hop is. So I'm just saying it can be argued. You're making a great argument for beatboxing.
I just, there's just no way that beatboxing cannot be included be the 5th element of hip hop.
But then make it 6. That's what I'm saying. We now we're saying there has to be 5. So okay, make it beatboxing, but then add that knowledge as the 6th, and let those be the found. But we're trying to put in a box something that isn't necessarily meant to be put in a box. It's meant to be.
We're going with a conversation that's been being had for the last 50 years, at this point. Which leads us to the post that I wrote, earlier today, is hip hop a culture. Now, I mentioned something in this conversation right here. You had a dog.
I had a dog.
And I said, and you deliberately used to dress your dog a certain way. So now when I say, and I saw a lot of other people online under my feed, peace to Greg, peace to Sean Mason, peace to Andrew, peace to my girl Venus. I see you guys. Please keep writing. I see Divina Brown. There's so many people. Peace, y'all. You're my man Karate Mike. Join the chat because this is an important conversation. Now, what got us into this is, again, because I wrote that question, is hip hop a culture? Right. And I feel that it started out as a culture. I went and looked up the definition, and as I'm talking, Manny, could you actually pull up the definition of culture? Actually, because I'm actually trying to read our some of our comments online, as we're doing this, and as I'm talking, you could probably do that. We'll work together.
I've done this before, but yeah, right. I don't want to paraphrase it.
Right, but let me continue as you're looking that up. Do you have it? Do you have it up?
Yeah, I do.
All right, so go ahead and read it.
So I've used this. This is internet. It's one of the dictionary, Oxford language, and the first one is a little bit more broad. The arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarding collectively. Whatever.
Number 2 is good.
The second one is the customs, arts, social institutions, and achievements of a particular nation, people, or other social group.
That's the one that, you probably, when you read it, you're like, yes.
Oh, yeah, I've used it
because when I read it, I was like, yes,
years,
that's hip hop. Like,
yeah, that's hip hop. 100%.
Right now, where I say hip hop is not a culture today, 2024, is because when I think of culture, as you just read, watch this. When you were growing up, I just brought up your dog. When you were growing up, we were growing up. Yeah. You dressed your dog hip hop. All right. So let me bring up some things of that time period.
Yeah, sure.
If you didn't have it, you wanted a bomber. Whether you did or didn't have it, you wanted a sheepskin. Whether you did or didn't have it, you wanted shell toes. Whether you did or didn't have it, you wanted a name buckle. You wanted a Kango. You wanted Lee's. You wanted Sergio Tacchini. Whether you did or didn't have it, you wanted Clark's, etc. Manny, you get where I'm going with this. You
100%.
understand what I'm saying? Whether you had it or got it or not, those are the things when you were rapping, you desired. Some of the things you did get. Some of the things you're like, oh, I got this, and I'm going to rock this. And you didn't just rock it, you rocked it a certain way. Right. You didn't just get a Yankee cap when you were 15. You got it and you rocked it Do that again, Manny.
I just moved it over. I knew where you're going.
Exactly.
Of course.
You rocked it a certain way. Why?
Of course.
Because you wanted to be identified a certain way, and you wanted to be included in another group of people, as you read in that second definition of culture.
Yep.
You want to be included in that. I'm only talking attire right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, I'm not talking vocabulary. Now, let's just, I'm going to like rant for a little bit on this vocabulary thing, and allow me to do this. And I know you're going to understand what I'm saying. You see, I come from, in hip hop, we have our own vocabulary, which makes it a part of a culture. I come from a time period when the vocabulary that we speak today, African Americans, Manny, what they call it, Ebonics back in the days, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
They're talking Ebonics.
Right.
Ebony phonetics. That's what Ebonics means. Ebony phonetics, aka black people talk. But today, whoa. Everyone says dope, and everyone says, you know, flip that house, and, you know, shout out to this, and
right. Yes, queen.
But you know what I mean? And back in my, you see the way I'm moving right now?
Yeah.
Like the way you wear your hat and whatnot. Like these type of things is what made you a part of the hip hop culture. And you know what? When you went to school after Christmas break, if you didn't have certain things or whatever, yo, you ain't down. Do you remember that, Manny? Do you remember that term, you
sure
ain't
did.
down?
I sure did.
Right.
Yeah.
And that term was said to you, to me, to whomever, because you didn't have, or you weren't doing or participating in the things that was required to be a b-boy, a hip-hopper, a b-girl. You may not have had a pair of gazelles, but in our day, you could not rock these glasses, the glasses that you're rocking, and be called a hip-hopper. You'd have to get gazelles, period. And you desired them because that was a part of that attire. And again, I'm only talking attire right now. I'm not going into other areas of, you know, of the culture that today you travel, as you say, hey, D, you know, I travel the world. I do this thing, D. I'm actually an activist when it comes to this hip-hop thing. You know, I'm a participant. When you go to Europe, when you go to China today, when you go to London or wherever, a person does not have to have a name buckle, the gazelles, the Kango, etc., to be hip-hop culture. You know, I'll land my plane with this one. Ooh, this one gets sensitive.
Okay.
You just brought up African Bambaataa. Yeah, I'm going to go there. There was a time in hip-hop culture when being a gay rapper, and I'm saying a gay rapper because gay dancers were always, I mean, I'm a part of Salt and Pepper crew, like, it was always there, you know.
Fair.
So
yep, fair enough.
Am I right or wrong, Manny?
Fair enough.
You're like,
yeah, that makes sense.
That's, I'm using the term gay rapper.
Understood.
You know, there was a time being a gay rapper in hip-hop was not accepted in that culture. In that culture. You know, today, you know, you got Lil Nas X, you got people that, yo, I'm openly gay, I'm this, etc. You know,
Sure.
accepted, you know, but in that same culture during you and I's time, it wasn't accepted, or you were not down.
Right.
And you get, I know you get what I'm saying because you're only like 2 years younger than me.
No,
Grew up
I
in
get
the
it,
same
yeah.
time I grew up in, and you knew when you went to the mall, to Roosevelt Field, to Jamaica Avenue, to 42nd Street, you knew if you had on a certain attire, a chick would automatically know what you are involved with by just looking at you. We don't have that today.
Lot to unpack there, sir. When De La Soul came out and was anti all of those materialistic things that we had attributed to hip hop culture, they were shunned. But they are hip hop culture. So yes, there were these standards of attire, of dress, of way to act, of way to spit, of way to do music, that at some point someone says, hey, we don't have to subscribe to all of that specifically, but we're still hip hop, 100%. And we said, oh, yeah, you are. You're right. So,
Wait, you're saying that?
hold on. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
That De La Soul actually had like a little struggle being accepted in hip hop.
I would have. They rapped about it, of course, 100%. This was at a
Potholes on
time
my
when-
lawn. That's the first time you heard them on record. That wasn't a hip hop hit.
The whole look, the whole vibe was like, we're not that, we're rocking these medallions, no gold. That was, remember they said that we rock these medallions,
But that
no
was
gold,
hip
to
hop.
specifically push back against what was being looked at as the materialism that was associated with hip hop.
Mike, the African medallion, that was hip hop. Mike, Manny, that was hip hop.
100%. But
That wasn't De La Soul. That was hip hop.
they helped make that hip hop.
No, they didn't. The 5% Nation did.
They helped make it hip hop too, but it was against another vibe or another aesthetic that was in hip hop at the time. So it's never been any set amount of things. It's always been evolving. You're right that the Gazelles, the starter jackets. Oh my God, I wanted a starter jacket so bad, right? I get it. I was there too. We were all doing the same thing. But then we said, oh, we can start doing things our own way. Flipping the hat to the side was one example. But then when De La Soul, or when the 5%ers came out with medallions instead of gold because of blood diamonds and all this, like the socially conscious things, that was new to hip hop. And we didn't turn it away because it was different or new. We said, oh, if you're authentic with your connection to the overall
Why you bringing
culture,
up African Bambaataa? Like, that's the whole black medallion. Like, Manny, I'm sorry. My bad.
okay.
Manny,
It's okay.
they, like,
Right.
you're talking about the Zulu Nation. There was no gold. That whole,
Okay,
what I'm
so
wearing
then-
now. Like,
so then part two of this.
My bad,
but again,
Manny.
It went against the aesthetic of, the Dookie Gold rope chain. It went against the aesthetic of the Mercedes Benz, and I'm thinking of like the early Rakim stuff.
and that's not De La.
The Dapper Dan jackets, like this materialistic thing that started happening in the late 80s, right? Was like, hey, we can make money off of this. We could be flossing. We could be doing all these things. And then some artists were like, hold on, look at Speech. Hold on. We don't have to go that route. That doesn't have to be hip hop. It could be an aspect of hip hop, and we can still all do those things. They can all be true at the same time. That's the point that I'm landing my plane on. That even in today, you say it doesn't exist anymore. We don't have that anymore. Now, yeah, absolutely. Unintentionally, the unintentional side effect, the collateral damage of hip hop being so damn loved and so damn inclusive and so damn relatable is that it's taken over popular culture. 100%. It's morphed into it. We can't often tell the difference between what's actually hip hop culture and what's, hip hop music, the rap music industrial complex, what people have glommed onto and are taken for their own. We get that 100%. You're right. And this is where everyone stops who are of a certain age and says, look, I look out today and I see the music's not like how it was. The people aren't how it was. The dress isn't how it was. The vernacular isn't how it was. Drill music is dangerous and harmful. All these negative things that have become a part of the popular culture aspect of what hip hop has influenced. Yes, 100%. But it doesn't discount the fact that all those things that we need and love and appreciate and can benefit from are not still available and a part of the actual hip hop culture, and that young people are very much a part of this. The older folk are still very much a part of it. It's just that it's taken over the commercial aspect has gotten so big that it drowns it out. It's the same if I tell you all I do is watch Marvel movies and blockbusters. There's no good documentaries made anymore. Of course there are.
Of course
There's
there
no
are.
good art house films made anymore. No one does film. Of course there are. There's no good R&B anymore. Of course there is. There's no good hip hop. Of course there is. But my big thing and my job is to say that despite all of these directions that the culture and its affiliated influences have gone, we've graduated past hip hop as just the music and the fashion and the vernacular and the way we talk, speak, and act. As older folk now, as you know, I talk about this all the time. Hip hop is being used in schools and in mental health settings,
In what
in
level?
all
In
these
what
different
setting?
areas outside of entertainment. So what happened and how it deviated from what we know it to be and where it is that we sometimes don't give it enough attention are two separate things, and they can all be true at the same time.
I don't disagree with you. You know, I think today the conversation is, and I'm going to get into the young folks conversation in a quick second when you brought them up. I
Yeah.
feel as though a lot, you and I generation, I think we get a bad rap from people saying we should talk and reach out to the younger folks, you know, more often. In my opinion and experience, they don't want to deal with us. You know,
I get that.
yeah, they don't. It's not that. Look, they're our kids, Manny. You know what I'm saying? Like, how don't
Right,
you
right,
know,
of course.
Manny, bro? Like, come on,
Right.
man. Like,
but also, why do we expect them to? Like, sometimes people like they don't. Some I think it was your man Anthony, also from Westbury, right? I said it was in the chat was like, you know, they don't have reverence for what came before them. I mean, we didn't all have reverence for what came before us either. We were actually actively trying to, like, when people would tell you that you were sampling, Grandmaster Flash would tell you when people said I was touching the record, they came at me. You know what I mean? Like we had no reverence for the you know, the things we weren't supposed to do. We were touching records. We were spinning, going back and forth. We were scratching the needles. You know, I don't know if your daddy ever saw you scratching a record on his turntable, but it was an ass beating for sure if he caught you doing it like it was mine.
I think.
You know what I mean? So of course we wouldn't expect our kids to listen, but we have
Before you
to
go
be,
there, man, let me address that.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I think the difference is where I agree with my generation when we say this, and I may give you some pushback, is the reverence part. We do have reverence. It's not, Manny, it's not reverence. It's knowledge. You know, supply yourself, whatever you're doing in life, just supply yourself. Look, I'm just going to look around my studio right now. If you want to learn how to play keyboard, learn the scales. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you learn how to knit, make shirts or whatever, learn how to knit. Learn what material is. Learn what, if you make, you know, jewelry, etc. If you want to be you know, my point is, like, learn whatever you want to do in life. You know, learn. And if you're going to learn, not if, the way to learn is to learn everything about it prior to you, because this thing existed, whatever you want to do, prior to you, unless you're the guy that's making an iPhone. But you still have to learn how phones function. What happens today, and I'll tell you myself as participant, as musician, not DJ, as a musician, you know, Manny, I'm in a position I can say, you know, the arts are deteriorating. I can say it. I can say it with, because I come from the academic part of it, education. So I can say, from speaking to a lot of my peers that did go to Juilliard, you know, and that did participate in Queens Community College, or even professors that, you know, how the classes, you know, you have your field where you study whatever. In this field of academia, of musicianship.
Yeah. No, I talked to many of them too, so I agree with you 100%. I get it. I talked to a lot of music educators, so I get it. Yeah, but I agree. And they would tell you the same thing, 100%.
So this is the reason. Now, the reason why that happens is everyone, not some, everyone in my generation, our generation, we knew who the Temptations were. We knew who the OJs were. I mean, you know, we knew who Gladys Knight and the Pips were. We were going to see them up the block at Westbury Music Fair. We knew who James Brown was. Like, I mean, like, this is ridiculous, you know, to compare our generation in reverence and respect and knowledge compared to, you know, the way things are being done today. Oh, I'm gonna start everything right here, and whatever happened before, like, it's just it's a ridiculous conversation to compare us and say, oh, every generation did this. Nah, that's not true. Manny, let me finish.
Okay, I was gonna ask a question. I wasn't gonna.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to say, when you say these things, and I get it, what would you wish that young people, we're talking about young people in music arts, had that you think they're missing because they don't have, you know, it's not the same.
Don't cut the communication with us. That's your answer.
Right. But,
period.
But so I guess my pushback to the pushback is, where's that supposed to happen? Now, this isn't your fault or our fault.
I can answer that. You're talking. I can answer it.
Yeah, please go. Yeah.
inside the school, inside when you're talking to a D-Wiz, instead of going on social media and calling these people a Dougie Fresh or what was the academics calling LL Cool J and those guys oldies, like, yeah, bro, like, yes, that I have an answer for you. You know, instead of calling academics, like his voice is one of the leading voices of the young generation, all right? He represents a lot of what they feel. I'm not picking on him, but we're having a conversation, and this is an example of how that does not,
Who are we talking about?
Academics. When he
Jesus Christ.
Well,
please.
hey, you can say that, but it's an example, brother.
I get it.
You know,
but you're saying the schools have to invite the D-Wizzes and not the academic. But
bro, let me finish my answer.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, yeah.
You know, instead of a voice like that, a powerful voice who does represent a lot of other thoughts like him. You know, I watch Love and Hip Hop. The first thing that when a younger rapper will have beef with the older one, the first thing, that old head, that such and such, oh grandma such and such, oh grandpa blah blah blah, they'll call what's his name, Peter Guns, oh he's an old dude, da 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 da, this that and the third. You know, Manny, don't put that on us, bro. We didn't do that. You know what I'm saying? We didn't act like that. You know, bottom line, we didn't act like that then, we don't act like that now, period. And anyone in our generation that tries to continue to, you know, say, oh, it's the same thing, it's bullshit, bro. It's not the same thing, it's bullshit. We didn't do it. You know, those records that you're talking about that we put on, well, those records were made before us. Those records that we were scratching and stuff, well, guess what? We went in our parents', you know, as you just said, we went in our parents' stuff and got them. What's happening today is, nah, I ain't fucking with that. I don't want your stuff. I don't, blah, blah, blah. So that didn't, you have kids. Like, you know, I got young kids. Like, that didn't come from us. Why wouldn't you, other parents, why wouldn't we want? I mean, come on. Our parents did for us. This is what we do. You know, which leads to the conversation we're currently having. This is the reason why hip hop has changed, and a lot of people that you're seeing, Manny, on my timeline that are giving you pushback on that, because when you do have a generation, I'm not going to pick on this generation, a group of people that I'm going to cut myself off from everything prior to me, but I'm going to do the same thing, by the way. I'm going to continue. You just gave an example about these two dudes. Yo, man, I'm going to call these two dudes up because I'm sure they've talked to Dougie. They may know the history. You get my point? Like, you know, you was like, they're advocates. You changed it. You said they're advocates. In order for them to be advocates, they have to have the history. You know, the average rapper, you know, we see the stuff, man. They'll say so. I think when Academics was talking about LL, he was like, yo, who was that dude again? The dude, LL. It's like, dude, really? Like,
I get it.
Like, you're a DJ. You're not a DJ, but you call yourself a DJ, but you get my point, Manny. You know what I'm saying? Like, those things. Look, man, he went back and he corrected himself when Chris Brown got beat for a Grammy from piano player. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Incredible piano player. You know what I'm talking about. Incredible.
Yeah, and Chris Brown called him out like, who is this guy?
Yeah, and then what happened the very next day?
Right.
He was like, oh, I didn't do my homework on him.
Right.
It was like, yo, it was, oh, shoot, I didn't do my homework on him. God damn, he's way more talented than me. And, oh, I was misspeaking. I misspoke. Why? Because little boy didn't do his homework. You know what I'm saying? And those are the kind of things that we didn't cut ourselves off from you. You're our seeds. You know what I'm saying? And that's why today, this hip-hop culture conversation, it's like the lines are blurred. Would you agree that the lines are blurred, or do you still think they're kind of like, you know?
No, I think that's the big problem. The entire, you know, your entire premise there was on point if we're just talking about the music. You know, again, the rap music industrial complex, you know what I mean? Like, you know, the music side of things. Yeah. That is, my job is to look at hip hop as a more expansive thing, right? So in terms of the artistic side of the culture, there are a lot of issues that have to be dealt with. When you say they didn't do their homework, I'm often reminded that teachers assign homework, right? Someone's not assigning the homework. Someone's not connecting with our young artists in a way that give them that opportunity to feel comfortable talking to elders.
You can't assign a homework if you don't have a class and if the kids aren't participating and coming to school.
No. I mean, teachers could say that too, and they'd go home every day and nothing would happen. Parents could do that and write off their kids every day. My kids know about the history and some of this, some of the
We're having a macro conversation right now.
Right. What I'm saying is there is a responsibility. See that I'm going to say so. You said earlier I'm going to say some things that some people might get mad at.
Go for it.
At some point, as advocates for a culture, let's just agree for a second that we feel it's a culture, we feel it's something we're a part of, and even if it were just focusing on the artistic aspect.
Shout out some real quick. Shout out to Andrew Wang. We have a lot, Manny, we have a lot of engagement. I just want to shout out some people real quick. Shout out to Christian Moore, my man Christian. That's my man Karate Mike's son. Shout out to Andrew Wang. Shout out to Davina Brown, who's representing, by the way, De La Soul. You spoke on De La Soul.
Yeah.
You have a De La Soul. Yeah, you have some members that are in the chat right now. I just want to shout them out. Continue, Manny.
Please do. I appreciate all the love. What I'm saying is that we have this opportunity as elders, right, to look, they're going to push back. Kids are going to push back. And sometimes we don't get any of it. We don't want to participate. I've heard so many folks our age, bro, just be like, I don't even listen to what they listen to. I don't even listen to that shit. And I'm like, okay, do you know what they're listening to? No, I don't even pay attention to that. It's garbage. It's all garbage. So, okay. But then I talk to, again, I'm going off script here a little bit, but I'm saying I talk to mental health professionals and I say, how do you use hip hop to connect to young people? You're a school counselor in the Bronx. You're 30, 40 years old. How do you connect to why do you have this great program? I'm shouting out JC Hall at a school in the Bronx, Rough and Tumble School that was just featured on Good Morning America. And I'm like, how did you get these students to connect with you where they're actually, as a school counselor, they're talking to you and they're breaking it down to you and they're doing songs in your little studio that you've built inside your high school in the Bronx. And he says, well, I meet them where they're at. I'm saying, what you talking about? Well, I discuss with them what they're listening to and why they connect to it. And I'm saying, okay, tell me more. He goes, well, listen, if they're listening to some, emo, I'm just leaned back and I'm taking all these pills and Molly and all this stuff. Like a lot of us, we make a joke, older heads, we say, we used to rap about selling drugs. Now all they do is rap about taking drugs. I mean, first of all, as if one was better.
That's nothing to be proud about.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's even better. But the point is that, you see what I'm saying? We do it.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, oh, that's supposed to be better?
It's like,
Right. But okay, if my kid is 14, 15 years old and he's connecting to some artist that's talking about self-medication and talking about not being able to cope and doing all this emo stuff that we look at and we want to say that's soft. I don't want to talk to my kid and say your taste in music is garbage. I want to talk to my kid about why are you connecting to this music? What is it you see in this music that I need to know about as a parent? And that's what that school counselor taught me. He says, just because we don't agree or like or think that we know everything they're doing, I'm going to give you one big example. Because we think we know and we hear all these kids and this music and we don't get it. But I'm going to give you one brilliant example. Dr. Lauren Kelly is a professor of English at Rutgers University. And every year I work with her organization. We mentor. We have a conference called the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference. So this is hip hop, youth, research, activism, and it's run by the college students. They run the conference. All we do as grown folk is kind of give guidance. It's an academic conference at a college, but it's about hip hop, research, and activism. Remember, they used to say hip hop used to be all about activism, but not anymore. No, I'm telling you it is. And they're proving it. So she's teaching this course and she's running this conference. And she tells me one time, I have her interview on my show, and she says, I'm talking to the kids and I'm trying to figure out why they like what they like. And we're listening to some of their music. And she goes, I'm a woman. I'm 35. I'm a black woman. I'm 35 years old, or however old she was at the time. And she's listening to, and they go over. And at the time, the song was Birthday Song by 2 Chainz. Now, this is my birthday month. I have to point out January 31st, Aquarius is.
Oh,
Let's
what?
go. You know what I mean? So she's listening to a birthday song with the kids. And, all I want for my birthday is a big booty hoe, right? And we're watching the video, and the video is all these scantily clad women. You don't even see their faces. They're just women. They're just popping it. And, there's a cake in the shape of an ass. Like, it's all this wild stuff going on in this horribly misogynistic, video. And she's talking to them. They love it. The song is popping at the time. They're young. She's asking them what's up. And they're like, oh, we love this song. She's like, why do you love this song? I'm trying to understand. You know what I mean? As a grown black woman, like, this is problematic to me, but I want to understand where you're at. And they're like, well, it's just, it's dope. She's, would you like the beat? Like, yeah, the music is good. What about the lyrics? Hey, it's fine, whatever. And she's like, well, we're watching the video, and it's like, well, do you relate to this in some way? They're like, no. And she's like, well, do you want your birthday, like, you want your birthday party to look like this? They were like, no. They were like, well, then what? And they said, I want my birthday party to look like this if I wanted my birthday party to look like this. She said, oh, you mean you want the freedom? They were like, yes, we want the financial freedom, the safety, we could have friends, we could have a party. And kids 15, 16, 17, 18 years old in some of these communities, as you know, don't have any of that. They don't have any of that possibility of these things coming to fruition. Not that they want the guns and the kill everybody and the cars and the women and the ass cakes or whatever. They just want to be comfortable and have some freedom. And she got that by talking to young kids about a song that they related to that she had no connection to. And when I heard that story, I said, man, we got to do. That's something we can do as parents, as teachers, as counselors, as musicians, trying to bring up the young folk, to try to meet them where they are, because they're never going to come. You're right. They're never going to come to us willingly. But I've seen people do it where they've met them where they are, and it's led to wonderful communication. And if we want communication, I'm just telling you that I've talked to people, and this is what they're figuring out how to do through the music that we might not connect to.
Applaud to them, and applaud to, all the people that are just, 10 toes on the ground, being participants and active in in this conversation that we're having with youth and old heads like ourselves. But I want to actually bring it back to something, that a point that I was making, that we're talking about with this. Do you, D-Wiz, like today's music? I watch you, Manny, and I watch the things that you talk about today's music. I watch the comments that you make, and I know the reason why you're doing it, to start thought and to start dialogue. And I made a comment to you one time that you didn't have to search for good music at a certain time. Now we're talking about hip hop right now, because I still do believe that in a lot of other genres of music that they have kept pretty much a lot of their standards. In heavy metal, the standard is still Eddie Van Halen. As far as rock guitar, the standard is still Neil Peart, as far as drums, being a drummer in hard rock music.
I get it.
Even though Miles Davis, John Coltrane, Thelonious Monk, Art Blakey, these guys aren't with us today. They died over 40, 50 years ago, 4 decades ago. The standard is still, in 2024, Thelonious Monk, Train, Bird, Davis. That's still the standard of today. There's not one genre of music I can't think of outside of hip hop where the standard moved, the needle moved. It went. The standards have increased in a lot of music. So when I think of Eddie Van Halen, prior to him there was a guy that was called Jimi Hendrix.
Mm-hmm.
Now this dude was able to do things with the guitar that at that time no one was able to do. And you had all, not some, all of electric guitar players. I have to play like that because he has set the bar here. Eddie Van Halen comes in, I've matched that bar, I'm setting it here. So what happens is, from generation to generation, someone sets a bar, and the standards, continue to be met. And okay, let's put some more standards out here.
Sure.
A good friend of mine, Mike Philly. We all know, Mike Philly. Branford Marcellus and those guys. Those are tenor, no, those alto players as well. And Mike Philly, he has those guys as his standard. If you tell Mike Philly to play the A Train, he could play it.
Mm-hmm.
If you tell Mike Philly to play Salt Peanuts, he could play it. If you tell him to play any record of today, Mobb Deep Shook Ones,
Mm-hmm.
he could play it. In the club, 50 Cent.
Mm-hmm.
What happens today is the standard to be a rapper. I'm not even gonna bring up the term DJ, Manny. Like, so
go there.
I am a DJ, and like, really, don't.
I get it.
Yeah,
I
don't.
know. That's a
I'm not
whole
even gonna bring up
different-
that
I know.
term. So I'm just gonna stay with rapper. The standard for that is no longer the standard that it's been in previous generations, and I'm saying that based on what I and the most of the public see. Now you participate in going in the underworld and the subgenres, which most people don't do. We're talking about the public.
Mhm.
In you and I day, that was the public.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? The best was the public.
Mhm.
And it's not like that today. Now, I actually, there is a philosophy, not a philosophy, there's actually a facts. Listen, everyone, let me go tell you guys this. I'm going to tell you this as well, Manny. Go and check out this guy. He's on YouTube. His name is Rick Beato. He has a video that he just released actually a few days ago, and he talks about why the music business is corrupt.
Mhm.
And he goes on and speaks about when Bill Clinton signed the bill for, I'm going with this, Manny, and then how iHeartRadio and all those other companies came and took up all of them, and then there's this one program director. So that's another conversation, Manny, for something else. So if I can see you shaking your head, Manny. If you know that information already, you know that it became business. And once it becomes business, that's when the standards are no longer in place, because as me as an engineer, now everyone is mixing for just volume. How far can I push this before distortion?
Right.
How loud can this be? It's not about the quality of the song. It's not about anything else. I'm gonna land my plane with this, Manny.
Okay.
I work for Salt and Pepper. I work for a lot of people, Arrested Development, etc. And so I get a chance to study the people that came before me, a lot of their music. So Herbie Lovebug, people that come from our generation, is like the first Puff Daddy. He's a first P Diddy.
Good point. Yeah,
multiple groups, etc. His music, not samples, his music. When I started doing a Salt and Pepper show over, I had to study his music. I love Rick Beato too, Andrew. Yo, go and subscribe to him, everybody.
Shouts to Andrew Wang, by the way. That's a friend of the room. So yeah, I'm glad they're coming through. Yeah.
True indeed. So I had to study this guy's the way he did things, and he had chord progressions in his music. He had bridges, and this is rap music we're talking about. Today, now, and the reason why I brought up Rick Beato is because he's very, 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 very critical about this, being an aficionado the way he is. he even speaks about. See, now I'm gonna get nerdy and eggheadish right now. You
Yeah, let's go.
Rap music, it did used to have chord progressions in it, Manny. It used to have, there was a time in rap music, you can chart it, score it, and give it to a band and for them to play it because it was music. We sampled guitars, we sampled bass lines, we sampled horn sections, etc. Today, with this thing right here, this thing has a bunch of sounds, not chords, sounds. Sounds, you know. So today, in today's music, that's not chartable. They're sounds. They're just waves, X's and O's. You could press anything. Oh, that sounds cool. Get a drum loop from, a free place on internet now.
That's right. That's right.
And that's called a production today. Now, and every other genre of music, that's not accepted, Manny. It's just not. Not some. Every. I'm quadruple down. I'm a participant. Like,
I get it.
All the church musicians, my boys, all the guys in Brooklyn, all the Trey Songz band members, all the ushers, like all these guys, these Nate Jones, all these dudes, these are all my guys. Like,
I get it.
And when you give these guys like the stuff to play today, you know what they have to do, Manny? They have to go and take stems from the song because that stuff is not chartable. It's not chords. It's not, there's no key changes. What key is it in? There is no key.
I get it.
This is the only music that happens in. I don't like it. Well, let me say this, Manny, and I'm going to let you go.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I don't like it. And I won't say it doesn't happen because I know you could pull out some stuff like No D. It does still happen right here. Back then, that was up front. The stuff that you listen to was the popular music.
Sure. I mean, yeah, of course. And, oh, God, there's so much there.
Yeah, I know I said a lot.
I mean, there's a lot of things that come to mind real quick. It's like, remember, and again, shouts to the late great Biz, when sampling laws changed, we couldn't use a lot of old great music that we leaned on for early hip hop, and we had to kind of make our own productions. And some of our producers and musicians did that really great, and some, turned it into ringtone rap. So I get it. There's been a lot of examples of the musicality of hip hop declining. This goes back to what I said earlier, that rap music has now become popular music. It's the foundation of all popular music, including pop music, including some country music. No shouts, but you know what I'm saying? Jelly Roll and people like that. There's hip hop in everything now. It's infected every genre. And it's sometimes simplistic and it's sometimes formulaic and all the things that we hate about music if we're music heads. And yes, there were more deviations of creativity back in the golden age of hip hop. It's not going to be that way again.
Agreed.
Point blank. So we have two options. We can lament it and wash our hands of everything, or we can do like we did when we had to sit by the radio at 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. Friday and Saturday nights on Kiss FM and WBLS in Westbury, Long Island. I was at Craig Parkin's house, you know what I mean? And I had my cassette tape ready because I went and
Philip Murray's in the chat, by the way, Manny. Philip Murray's in the chat.
Come on now.
Philip Murray.
No. Shouts to Craig and Scott Parkin. Come on, man. So we were there and we went and we found it. We got it. We could only get rap on the radio 2 days a week for 4 hours apiece. We got it. We listened to WRHU at 2 a.m. on Wednesday nights, the half pint show and all that stuff. We did all that to find what we wanted. So now all of a sudden it's back to that because the thing that we love so much grew and infected everybody and everyone has a piece of it. Great. Cool, fine. When Kenny G came out, my dad was like, this is some bullshit. Because my dad was a jazz dude. I'm listening to Count Basie. I'm listening to Coltrane. My dad is a jazz. He's like, Kenny G, soft jazz, CD 101 point, whatever. Nah, here's who's still popping. and he put me on, and he went and looked for it, and he went to the radio stations, and he went to we got Spotify, bro. There's no type of hip hop that you could love that isn't being made today, fresh and new. Sometimes by
How do we
OGs.
find that, Manny? How do we like
Cy Smith? Do you know Cy Smith, R&B singer? She's up, I don't know, she's maybe up and coming, whatever. She posted a great post. I did a rant about it. It's on my YouTube, where she says, look, if you don't like what's on the radio, stop listening to the radio. We have Spotify. We have an algorithm that we can program. If you go into Spotify and say, okay, let's keep it hip hop. She's R&B, but I get it. Because I'll put in Ari Lennox and be like, I like Ari Lennox, right? I like SZA. I like
and they're going to play correct. It'd be SZA Radio. And they're going to play all the songs, the commercial songs.
Some of them. Not Cypher. When I listen to some of this stuff on Spotify, I'm discovering people. So if, let's say, all I need is one or two. If I know that I could find through my people, somebody be like, yo, who's really spitting that OG boom bap, whatever it is you want, whether it's a conscious, mentally, socially conscious, or that.
I'm gonna do it right now as you're talking, Manny.
Give me Elzai, give me Napoleon the Legend, and even start with a Cole or somebody who is kind of commercial.
Do it right now as you're talking, and I'm giving an example how they're gonna give me all the commercial artists. Give me an artist right now, and I'm gonna go to such and such radio, and they're gonna give me nothing. Give me an artist, brother. I'm gonna show you right now.
Not nothing. You could put in Napoleon the Legend, whatever. You could put in Elzai. You know what I mean? These are some rappers that spit. You could put in.
If I don't know who that is, which I don't, that's what I'm asking you.
Hold on. But everyone comes back with that. I don't know who that is.
Right. So I'm asking you, how do we find out? Because that's some bro. Like that'd be confrontational.
Of course, I want
Tell
us
us how do we know who these people are? The only reason, Manny, the only way I find out a new rapper is when they kill each other, bro.
I know. No, that's right. Okay, because hip hop media, and I use it in quotes very purposefully, is not your source, right? But you can crowdsource through your internet. You say, listen, this is what I ask. Listen, this is what I ask of everybody, because we're all going to get on the internet. You've done it. I've done it. Everyone listening has done it. When Sexy Red song was #1 on Rolling Stone, or some list comes out, or something happens, or somebody kills somebody else, we go on the internet and we say, I don't know who these people are. This is garbage. This isn't my type of hip hop. I don't like it, and I'm done. But what we don't do and everyone jumps on that, and the algorithms love it, because even if you hate the fact that Sexy Red song was #1 by Rolling Stone, and everyone's like, Rolling Stone doesn't represent us. They don't. Okay, but you're posting about it. So you're feeding the algorithm, and that's all it does. It just keeps churning out the same bullshit. And if you call out DJ Academics, you're just boosting up DJ Academics' algorithm. So at the same time, I'm asking this of everybody. This is all I ever ask. When you lament or complain or disparage or don't like something, because we have our standards, as you said, and you go on the internet and you say in a post on Facebook or wherever, I don't like this artist or this thing that happened. However, and we don't do this. None of y'all do. I mean, I don't speak hyperbolically, but most of y'all don't. However, I do like, boom. I just mentioned 4 or 5 R&B artists and hip hop artists in my conversation. You will never hear me ever talk about hip hop and today's music without throwing some name out there. Somebody you could look up. If we all did that, it would solve your problem, because your people on your social media and your Instagram and your Facebook, somebody would drop a name that you would be like, all right, let me put it in my Spotify. But we don't do it. It's up to us, man. It's up to us. We don't do it. All we do is complain.
And you're making a point. I'm going to tell you how you're 100% you're making a point. Anyone from our generation, Manny, that, forget it, you don't even have to be a DJ. I know you did it. When you went to Jamaica Avenue, all you did was look at the record label sometimes. Oh, it's Sugar Hill. Oh, it's Profile. Oh, it's Def Jam. No, I'll even go before Def Jam days. Enjoy Records, etc. Mm-hmm. And you didn't even know who was on that record, but they were on Sugar Hill. They were on Enjoy Records. They were on Profile.
Curators.
We would buy it. We would buy it, because it was on that label. Yeah. So you're definitely making a point.
I'll tell everyone, if you like that old school hip hop, that like boom bap, New York style hip hop, go to DJ Absurd. This is the problem, and this is why I exist, right? DJ Absurd, you don't know him. He's got a New Jersey. He's had about 300 podcast episodes where he mixes about 80 songs, right? And everybody on there has got that kind of gritty New York kind of boom bap. Some of them are new. Some of them are old. Some of them are people we've probably heard of, the Mayhem Lorenz or Sky Zoo, or, some of these like New York-based kind of artists that are doing that, the Action Bronson, people like that. But some of them are like when Kool G Rap dropped a new song, it was on there. So DJ Absurd is a curator that does this. Now, you don't know who he is. If you don't pay attention to me, you don't know who he is. You have to happen to know him. So my job, the reason why I exist, is to help make those connections happen. So that's why I'm here. That's why you talking to me. That's why I do what I do. And you see, when you're out there saying you always drop somebody, yes, I have to do it. Hopefully other people will do it too. But that's what has to be done. Or people will think it doesn't exist. And every time we say, because we don't know. Like, I don't know. I'll end with this. I don't know how the resorts are in, Tokyo. I've never been there. But if all I hear is like, the resorts in Tokyo suck, and I come out and I say the resorts in Tokyo, Japan suck, you're just going to think I don't want to go to Tokyo because the resorts, who am I? I don't know. I don't know enough. And I have to be self-aware enough to know that as an older hip hop head who's not connected to it like we were when we had disposable time, and when we listened to the radio with our cassettes, and when we listened to our college radio stations, and when we talked about it with our friends, and when we watched Video Music Box, and we watched Yo MTV Raps every single day, and we watched 106 in Park if you're a little bit younger, we don't do that anymore. So we don't know. So we have to accept that and say, where can I find someone that knows? I'm one, and I'll try to point you in the right direction.
So in that case, whenever someone talks to you about the beatbox again, don't you ever in your life, in my mind,
fair enough.
What the hell is this guy doing?
Don't stick all these gems I dropped on that
no. Based on those gems, I'm saying so being that you are the place that people come to, that's what I'm saying this to you. That you are the place that people come to for that. How dare you think about someone else that?
If anyone asked me who the
let me see if I can call Doug right now. It's like, huh?
No,
you go to someone else? I'm a seed of him,
listen,
bro.
Tell Doug, listen.
What?
Let me say two things.
Those cats don't
to make sure that we are clear, because I have to make sure.
Huh?
Now, number one, I respect the American Beatbox Championships for being one of the only organizations that continued the legacy of beatboxing throughout the years. They still exist.
Right, that was our conversation.
Right. So, and that's what I wanted to say. In other words, if you ask me who the pioneers, who the starters, obviously, first of all, nobody gave beatboxing more of a profile than Dougie. So I get it. Now, I'll also say this about Dougie. Here's where I come into play with the let's go outside of the music and the entertainment, even though he's the world's greatest entertainer, right? That's a trademark, right? I know who Doug is. Yeah. But Dougie Fresh every year works with an organization called Hip Hop Public Health. And they're an organization out of New York. They have a huge organization. What they do is they use hip hop to connect with young people the importance of health issues, washing your hands to stop germs from spreading, and keeping down your sugar intake so that you don't have diabetes and all these things. They use hip hop. DMC is part of that organization. Ashanti is part of that organization, and Doug E. Fresh is a part of that organization. And every year they have a great gala and they raise money for this organization. So that's an example of our entertainment.
Salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper. They did a song called Salt. You're exactly right. You're 100%. So you know what I'm talking about.
Wait, Manny, say it again. See, you're saying this stuff like you don't know that I'm a part of that.
I forgot for a second.
You're saying that as in I didn't produce that song.
Of course you know. Did you? So then
you're saying wait, Manny, you're also saying that I'm not in that video for that song. You're saying this song I'm the one that brought Cheryl to Lori, to Jade, I'm sorry, Dr. Williams.
I understand what you're saying. So understand this.
Wait. Let me ask you this. Let me really go into the HHPH.
And you see what I'm saying? How important it is that we talk about that.
Let me go into HHPH. Let me go into Lori. Into Jade.
I had Lori on my show.
Let me go into Lori and Dr. Williams. So Hip Hop Public Health is an organization that I'm affiliated with as well. I do a lot of their stuff, their galas in Manhattan. And what they are, as Manny Faces was saying, they're an organization that you can go right now on hip hop hhph, I think it's .com, and check them out. Like you said, Ashanti is down with us, and Dr. Williams, what he does is he goes around. He's right there in Harlem. You can go to Harlem and check out Dr. Jade Williams, and they are out there on the front line, as Manny's saying, trying to spread the word of hypertension, high blood pressure in our community. So now what Doug does with them is he goes around with the speaking engagements as well. So when Salt did the song called
Let's talk about Salt. Yeah.
So I went to Lori and I was like, hey Lori, I pitched the idea to her about, because when Salt and Pepper did this record called Let's Talk About Sex, remember there was a PSA that let's talk about AIDS as well. And Doug had done a song with Jade and those guys at the time as well, and we were kind of like trying to like do some more things. So I called Lori, hey, I called Cheryl up, blah blah blah, let's have a song, talk about hypertension and salt and da da da. We'll call it like let's talk about salt. Laura's like, yo D da da da. I got Cheryl with at the time. Jimmy Manus used to manage the group, and anyone that's online right now, go to YouTube and type in "Let's Talk About Salt." That's a song that I helped produce. Yo, Manny, man, I'm shocked you didn't know that, man. That's a song I helped produce.
But I'm shocked you didn't think that I would know about it.
Well, why not? I posted on my I
didn't know about it.
It's not a secret.
The
way I see it is like, well, if the first time you would see that video would be from me or Lori, because we're the ones that put it out together collectively. You know what I'm saying? So in my mind, I'm like, wow. I look
for people that are using these intersections, and Lori and the organization came to my radar a long time ago. I had her on like 3 years ago, and believe me,
it says it right in the video produced by D Wiz.
That's super
I'm
dope.
in the video. It says it right in. It says
That's
it.
Brilliant. I must have missed that point. Actually, I think, to be fair, I think y'all released that after I interviewed her, so I was still in connection with the organization. But I think I had her before all that. So
really, Mike, we released this years ago. When did you
I know.
interview
I
Lori?
had her years ago. I had her like COVID time. It was
no,
years
it was before
ago.
this. We did this before COVID.
I must have known about it. I must have known at some point.
Yeah, we just
what I love is that when I talk about Dougie Fresh, obviously we talk about, or when I talk about DMC, or when I talk about Salt and Pepper today, I'm not just talking about their legacy, which is, again, great that Grammys and Hip Hop 50 did all those things.
Right.
But are we giving them the props? Our OG pioneer, brilliant artists that we grew up and loved, are we giving them enough credit for what they're doing today? And the answer is no. Most hip hop media did not cover Let's Talk About Salt. You know what I mean?
No one did.
I am, and that's my lane, is to try to say, hey, hip hop does so many great things besides what you might hear on the radio.
Manny, I came with the idea for that record, brother.
I love it. I'm glad to know
Manny,
that.
The
I love what they're doing. I love it. It's a brilliant thing. I love what they're doing. I'm glad you're involved.
Yeah, it's funny. I called up Lori. I was like, yo, Lori, I got this idea. I'm going to call Cheryl. And then she called Jade, and Jade was like, yo, you know how Jade talks. D Wiz, darling. I used to do all their galas in Manhattan. Obviously
I moved and I was invited, and then I moved like an idiot.
I DJ those galas. Well, even if you watch them when we do the stuff, now the other DJ does it, the stuff that's online.
I watched online.
Well, I DJ those things. You know what I'm saying? Like when Cobras first started out,
next year, let's go back and we'll go in person. We'll hang out with them.
Well, I'll most likely be on the set. So
I'll come with you too. You're not gonna give me a +1, bro? Like, come on.
Yo, all that stuff is on my. I post everything I do with HHP on my line online. The stuff that I done with Chuck on there, DMC. It's all. You're like, oh, I didn't know. I'm like, well. I don't keep it a secret. I post these things.
This is the point, my friend.
I post them.
Folks want to know. about all the wonderful things that hip hop music and culture still do. Pay attention to me, pay attention to you. There's some of us out here that have those connections. First of all, again, the interview series that you're doing, I'm honored and privileged. The names that you've had, the folks that you've had, I don't even feel like I'm in the same stratosphere. I mean, Melissa Morgan, come on, let's talk about it. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But the fact that you're doing that to emphasize the importance of musicality in our world, yes, all this stuff has to be amplified. I'm just saying, I'm not ready to throw out the hip hop baby with the mumble rap bathwater. You feel me? You know what I mean? I'm here to make sure we talk about these things every chance we get. So I appreciate.
Well, I appreciate you joining me and joining us tonight, man. This has been educational, entertaining, and fun. And we didn't watch the basketball. Manny, I watch basketball.
What's up with the Knicks?
I watch basketball 7 nights a week, bro.
I'm Knicks all day, baby. They played tonight. I was like, he want to go on now when they're playing.
I know.
Okay.
So let me ask you this question before we go. Being that you came down here, so have you adapted the Atlanta teams like Hawks and Falcons?
Hell no.
Oh shit.
Nope. Nah, Cypher. Never that. Never that. I went to the Hawks game when the Knicks was playing in the playoffs, game 4, and then I went the next year. I'll be there repping my Knicks gear heavy in State Farm Arena. I don't give a damn.
Yeah, I think I was at that game too.
Really? The playoffs? The game 4?
Yeah, my man owns the team. My boy owns he owns the Hawks.
Oh, look,
Jesse. It's Sarah. Yeah. They own the team. Those are my people.
Listen, I like the Hawks organization. I think what they do for the city is dope. We were there in the playoffs. It was a beautiful atmosphere. I'd never been to a playoff game before. They turned up. It was dope.
You see, and they had all those red T-shirts on the on the seats. You put them on, and here's the thing, Manny. Depending on what T-shirt this one's too small, and then you see someone else, you got a medium, that's what I go to Hawks games, maybe
that's what we got to do because they don't know. I could throw a stone and hit your house. We mad close.
True indeed.
You know what I mean?
And I was thinking about that. We should have done this live, but it's all great.
Yeah.
Last thoughts, man.
Nah, listen, like I said, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you having me here to talk. Like I said, anytime somebody thinks I'm worthy of saying something, it's important. I try to get out all the things that I collect. I'm a collector of information. So despite our minor kerfuffle about beatboxing, it was important to get out some of this stuff that I hear people doing. I see people doing. They've got the receipts. The youth are great. Hip hop is great. There's so many people doing so many wonderful things. I just want us to reach out a little bit outside our comfort zones, a little bit outside our atmosphere, and say, all right, I love hip hop. I am hip hop. A lot of people who are listening right now will be like, I am hip hop. That's something cultural right there. And there's something to that. And say, if we want that to continue to persevere and thrive, and we've outgrown the music on the radio. That's for the kids. That's for the industry. That's for we've got a lot of beautiful things happening that are connected to hip hop outside of entertainment. And it's saving lives. As you know, from Hip Hop Public Health is one great example of it. I can give you 1,000 others. I'll have folks like me. I'm going to do interviews. We've been doing this for years. Hopefully y'all pay attention. Hip hop can save America, and I don't say that lightly. I believe that we have a unique ability to uplift humanity and improve society through the culture that we love. So I thank you again for letting me talk my talk.
That being said, I actually have to thank you for actually even mentioning, because I don't. To your credit to what you're saying, I don't mention these things enough, and I actually should be. Manny, if you didn't bring it up, I wouldn't have said I produced that record. I came with the idea for that record, etc. Because we're advocates. When you're an advocate, you try not to make yourself the subject. You get my point?
That's why I do what I do. I talk to so many people that are doing the work.
Right.
I'm a journalist. I'm a journalist. I'm a DJ. I did all the things. Yeah. But at my heart, I'm a journalist, and I love telling the stories. It's like you love exposing a new record or a new song. We're DJs. We have that in us. So I love telling the stories of the people that are doing the work, because the people that are doing the work, most of the time, they don't got time to market themselves or amplify their own work.
Right.
So that's the role I'm trying to fit. So I'm glad that I brought it up. I'm glad that it's you, because I love you, and I love, where we come from, and I love repping Westbury like I claim it.
Same at you, back at you.
You know, so I'm glad that we got to get, and if I slipped and I didn't even realize you was affiliated with that. Believe me, anytime I say your name moving forward, I'm like, and by the way, my man was because that's what I'm trying to do is tell the stories of the people doing the work. It is me, and I'm like, oh, look how pretty I look. Nah, it's not me. It's about you and Lori and Doug
Dr.
and all the
Williams.
people doing all the things. That's what I'm here for.
That being said, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for hanging out with us. Hey, Manny, stay there. I'm going to go off now, everybody. It's been great. Thanks for coming in and hanging out with me. My man Manny Faces come back. And you know, if anyone has a subject matter, something you want to debate, you want to discuss, you want to just open up the conversation, DM me, hit Manny up. If you're on my Facebook or YouTube right now, hit us up and let's talk about it. Peace. Cool. Exit. Are you sure you want to exit? Yes.